So people are leaving MAGA and leaving Donald Trump. Let me show you guys what's going on. This is from the White House first, and they say President Trump will always put America first, American prosperity first. Okay, great, with the red light. And then we have Trump also with red, that's the motif, and a red tie, and it says tap in. Okay, why are we doing this kind of motif? It's like if you want to look like we'll call it the double AT double hockey stick kind of person, this is the imagery that you would use. It's strange, right? So that's what we're up to. And not everyone is going with it, though. People actually are leaving MAGA.
Hi, I'm Tori and I've left MAGA. What originally attracted me to MAGA was I grew up really poor, and the idea of a president who wouldn't take a dime from his presidency really resonated with that piece of me, as well as patriotism. He sold patriotism wrapped up in a bow very nicely. A very big breaking point for me was January the 6th. Patriotism does not include claiming a presidency that you did not earn and asking people to storm and attack our Capitol. And from there, it really spiraled into me learning a lot about Donald Trump and the things he has done and the things he has said. I'm speaking out now because there are a lot of people on the fence about leaving, and I want them to understand that there are people who have done that and who are avid, staunch supporters of speaking to the other side. There's a lot of criticism we face when we speak out against it, which is absolutely valid and fair. However, for us to move forward, we need to get more people out, and they need a safe space to land. Thanks.
And so what this is, what you're seeing, there's a guy, it's like a leaving MAGA movement. His name is Rich Logis. And basically he's recording people who are telling the reasons of why they essentially left the Trumpy MAGA mega stuff. It's basically a cult, and sort of how this one person describes it has, you'll get a lot of backlash if you leave, right? From fellow members or whatever.
Hello, my name is Jason, and I left MAGA. I supported Trump because I enjoyed antagonizing people. I feared responsibility. My alcoholism, which became a physical addiction, fueled obsessive behavior. This lack of rational thought prompted me to attend the Stop the Steal rally, where a violent riot broke out and we all competed for Trump's attention with a violent vengeance. The government held me accountable for my actions before I was ready. During my rehabilitation, I finally put the bottle down and was better able to understand the consequences of my actions. It was these actions that contributed to the horrific attack on the Capitol Police and resulted in the deaths of Officer Brian Sidnick, Officer Jeffrey Smith, and Officer Howard Livengood. It was in their memory, and the memory of former Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt, that I refused Trump's pardon, because the pardon was both egregious and dishonest. Nothing about January 6th was pardonable. Unity contradicts Trump's lies. Thank you.
This particular gentleman, it reminds me of that, and it's just unfortunate. There's a lot of people in the USA who are hurting these days. The policies that you'll see in the USA, it's just reality here. It benefits the ultra wealthy, and people who are not in that class suffer. And then the only way that they get you to go along with the current system is say, but guys, we have to build ballrooms and we have to do more wars and patriotism, wave the American flag, right? While regular people suffer. And it's sad to see, because it's just also real. People have addiction issues in USA. It's not like other countries. Like sometimes if you only live in USA, you think everyone all around the world, has these sort of addiction things. I'll just say this. Yes, it does exist in other places, but to the extent that Americans have both the addiction problem and the gun problem, put that together with the economic inequalities, this is what you get. And then you get someone like Trump that just offers you a bunch of fake solutions that don't really work, and your life actually gets worse, unfortunately.
I'm James, and I left MAGA in mid-2020. I supported Trump out of a failure of imagination. When my parents and grandparents would talk about racism, I thought that was their time. Times have changed. So I gave MAGA the benefit of the doubt. I didn't know the cruelty I would witness, the attacks on immigrants, the COVID deaths, the Lafayette Square threat of military force on protesters. I'm speaking out because I don't want other people of color to become accessories to atrocities against their own people. Civil rights is a long arc. It doesn't just end when you get some rights. You have to stay woke.
It's important to see different points of view on this stuff. Everyone's have different issues that they pay attention to. Everyone is fooled by Trump in different ways, but people do eventually wake up because there's only so many, times you can tell a lie. And the guy who put this together, this is relatively new, is explaining sort of more people that he's talked to and sort of what an overall theme is. Listen to this a little bit.
You were encouraging other Trump supporters to leave the MAGA movement. I guess looking at not the audience, at the sort of national atmosphere, do you think more people are leaving Trumpism, and what's driving that?
So I am happy to report that as an organization, leaving MAGA has never been busier. Thank you. We are now featuring leaders and testimonials of people who were 2024 MAGA supporters who left sometime last year. We're in touch with people who identify right now as MAGA and are having doubts and their own confusion and struggling a little bit with what's going on.
So they're helping people to get the message out of, why they left. That's why when you see these, videos of these various people, they're not like professional video making people, right? They're just regular people saying this is why I left. And it has a very different feeling than maybe other things you may see on the internet or whatever. He'll also talk more about like how do you address family members in your life or friends in your life who may be in part of the MAGA thing
around the country. And I do think there is an increasing number of people who are in the MAGA community right now who see that something is amiss nationally. They see that their communities are being torn asunder by actions from ICE. They're seeing their neighbors, the people they see when they frequent businesses, they're seeing them apprehended without due process. I think that the cracks are starting to show right now in MAGA, and I think as those fissures and those chasms widen, this is a great opportunity for all of us who have friends and family in MAGA. Because I'm asked all the time, Rich, what do I do to get through to my mom, my dad, my kids, my best friend? And my answer is that there's a couple of things that you can do. First is to be superhumanly patient with them. Second is to let them know that if they ever themselves have doubts and are questioning their support for MAGA, that you can be there for them as a friendly ear. Because if they feel that they can turn to someone, if they're feeling that MAGA is not comporting with their values and they have a friendly ear to turn to without judgment, without being ostracized, without being censured, then you can avail yourself to those individuals who are in MAGA and let them know that they can turn to you.
There's people out there that, for some people, they just don't know there's other options out there. They might have grown up in a community that's like, oh, we vote red. We always vote red. My granddaddy, my grandmommy vote red. That's what we do, right? And then they wonder why their lives don't get better. And so ultimately, though, people will wake up, at least majority of the yes, there's always going to be some whacked out people who's like, oh yeah, I really want to disrupt the economy and destroy everything in our neighborhood, right? But the average person's probably like, no, I just want to live my life. I just want to go to my job, don't have to turn on the news every day, and there's like chaos everywhere, right? And so this is why you are seeing people leaving the MAGA movement. I also want to show you this. In Texas, there are a lot of people now that are rising up, and a new essentially stream of people are entering into the system and the politics. Listen to this. This is Clayton Tucker in Texas.
None of this is new, but something happened in Texas. Texas launched a national movement that defeated America's first Gilded Age. It was called the Populist Movement. Started 5 miles away from my family ranch. These folks created a rural and urban alliance. Because at the end of the day, look, I don't believe that it's truly right versus left. I believe it's all of us versus the top 300 people. I think they do their propaganda to get the left to turn on the right and to get the right to turn on the left. They get us to attack each other so those greedy few can continue pickpocketing our government, can continue destroying our small businesses, can continue destroying our farms, and continue taking our water.
And it's important for people to see this gentleman. This is Clayton Tucker. He's in Texas. I think he's running for like a local office of agriculture, something like that. And I like how he states, this is all of us against the top 300 people, which is like, I mean, that kind of blew my mind. Usually you hear like top 1%, but when you just put it in terms of like, wow, it's like 300 people getting all the wealth and then the rest of us are just left out to dry. And it's true though. Shouldn't be about left, right. This is really about, I guess, the 300 top against everyone else. And I notice it's a trend, and I get it. I get it more than you know. You flip on most places on YouTube or whatever. It's just a lot of screaming and yelling, and they talk about left, right, right? I don't really focus on that. I just try to talk like a normal person. And normal people, as you can see, are waking up and realizing, wow, we don't have to play these games anymore. And I think we need more people like Clayton to come out because he will appeal to a different audience, a different set of voters than someone like myself, right? You need a guy in Texas with a cowboy hat saying, hey, let's work together. This is Clayton also. This is his site. I guess he's running for AG commissioner. And it's interesting when you read his description. It says here, farming family. From the moment he could wear his own pair of boots, his grandfather put him at work at his family's farm, the RX Ranch in Lampasas. So if you guys are familiar with this area, you can let me know. I also grew up working on a farm. I picked berries. I baled hay. I also worked construction when I was young. I write about stuff in my book. I talk about it several times on my channel. And so like someone like Clayton, he gets it. He knows what work is. Of course he was. Anyone who works on a farm, you would know. Clayton grew up baling hay, mending fences, running cattle, goats, sheep, and pigs on weekends and summers, while attending school in Georgetown during the weekends. And his mother worked at the Texas Railroad Commission, right? These are pretty, like, how can I say, like experiences that a lot of people can relate to. And then he decided that he wanted to get an education. He says water and researcher teacher. Initially staying close to family farm to continue working as a ranch hand, Clayton went to Southwestern University to study international politics with a minor in Mandarin. So he learned Chinese, started learning more about the world and national politics. It's like kind of the same path that I took. You go to college, your mind expands. And then I guess he must have joined Kappa Sigma, should be a fraternity or something. Clayton worked as a water researcher for the National Science Foundation, right? So now he's getting into science. Studied at the National Chunchi University in Taipei. He became a kindergarten teacher. So he went abroad, learned the language, learned about the world, went abroad, and came back. And now he's looking to serve the community. And this is a very similar path to myself. And I was just really happy to see someone like Clayton speaking out. Listen to more what he has to say. Now we're talking about data centers.
These data center people, they lie. Like, I was even listening to a video about how often they lie. They lie here, they lie there. They use something called like trade secret protection, where if you ask like for public information, this is all redacted. The way people are figuring this out is they look at all the backup generators. They're like, okay, well, they have 35 generators. These generators can produce X amount of electricity, so that's how much they're doing. Like, literally, that's how we're having to figure this out, because there's no transparency. And they just lie all the time anyway.
And that's a good explanation of like sort of why it matters to have transparency, especially with the data center issue, to know exactly how much power. And I didn't know about this particular issue on how they try to cover that up, and then how you kind of figure it out. Like I said, I really like this Clayton guy. And then it was also interesting as well. He was retweeting this thing by Health Ranger. And this actually chart here shows you what the world could be and where the world is going, depending on, if you want to live in Trumpy land or not. So on the left side, it says Texas farmers and communities, the rural backbone. And as Clayton said in the beginning, we need developing more partnerships between rural and urban, right? So just different people in different parts of the country can come together, right? That's basically what it is. If you look at the other side, the big money wants those data centers, right? You have all these needs for compute. So then you turn farmland into energy intensive cooling, data centers, whatever. Then they're going to take your power and water. You can see this. So your energy rates go up. And then the very bottom, which I thought was really interesting here, is they were talking about, they refer to fork in the road, but I was thinking about this. It's a divide between a community or someone's home that could be self-sustaining and off the grid, which I think a lot of people that appeals to. I think that appeals to a lot of people, right? Decentralization, self-reliance, be it grow your own food. And it's not just you personally, it could just be like local farms. Because one thing that Clayton talks about as well is like essentially the big businesses pushing out the little guy, which I think a lot of people know this. We talked this before. Even Fox News was admitting, if I remember correctly, it was something like 15,000 bankrupt farms. It was something like of that order we talked about in a prior video. It's really quite a lot. And then if you go to the Trumpy world or the Elon Musk controlled world, they want centralized control and scarcity, right? So the idea that all the money then just goes to Musk and you build up data centers and start eating up all of the land. And I think these charts kind of speak to a lot of people, but that's why, you know, I show you different voices out there. Everyone has different things that they're sort of in their community that they can see. But in order to see the full picture, you have to see that we're all connected. And the vast majority of us, like, you know, we could say all of us, except for the top 300, say, have the same needs and issues at hand. But to be frank, and even to be fair to say the top 300, we all need clean air and clean water. I'll just be honest with you on that. We do. And they do what the Trump does is to get you to not think about clean air and clean water, or get you to, you know, not think about things that literally your family needs and food, right? You want healthy food. Is to just get you angry all the time and put you in an economic state where you're just under stress nonstop. And then they promote like these crazy whacked out solutions and then use this kind of imagery, which, I mean, isn't it weird? Why would you want to portray yourself with like red tie and basically the AT double hockey stick kind of person? I mean, I'm just showing you guys, this is from the White House. Isn't it whacked out? And that's who these people are. So people are leaving and seeing the truth. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.